Glad to be here. I'm going to talk about Opengrid. I've kind of talked about it a little bit in a couple of our roundtable sessions, but I wanted this opportunity to showcase some of the work that we're doing in Chicago. I will say Chicago has been on the cutting edge of open data for the last 3 to 4 years. Under Mayor Rahm Emanuel and his administration, they wanted to make sure that we were doing as much as we could to be a transparent government. And as I've indicated before, typically with us, in what we do, not intentionally, we just operate in silos. We do what we do, our departments do their work, and the citizens are sometimes unaware of what we're doing and what's going on behind the scenes. But we found it's very important to be able to showcase what we're doing so that we can manage expectations, so that the neighborhoods, they are saying, well, the city's not doing anything. Well, we wanted to open up information so that the citizens would know, yes, we are. Probably not as fast as you would like us to do, but we are working. And so we're proud of Opengrid, and what I will do is I'm going to start off with just a video that showcases what Opengrid is, and then I'll go into some of the background, and we will also go through a tutorial on how to use it, and then talk about what are some of the benefits for Chicago, but also not Chicago, some of your cities if you're interested.
How well do you know your city, your neighborhood, even your block? If all you know is what you can see, then it's time to look closer. This is Opengrid, the first open platform that lets you uncover what's happening in your city right down to your doorstep. Like what new business is opening down the street, or whether that pothole has been filled, or finding out the health inspection results at your favorite restaurant. With a few simple clicks, you can explore a wealth of city data, like environmental inspections, crime statistics, new business licenses, and even neighborhood events, all tailored to a specific area defined by you. It's even an open source project, so developers can help add new features. Through Opengrid, Chicagoans and businesses can work together with local government to be more efficient, effective, and empowered members of the community. So, the next time you want to know what's going on in your backyard, just open a browser and head to Opengrid.
So it is that simple. So if you're interested in seeing this and working through our program, I will give you a way to do that. From your browser, from your laptop, from your iPhone, all you have to do is type the word chicago.opengrid.io. And then you will be in Opengrid. And that's for Chicago. And I'll go into further details specifically about how you can adapt that in your various cities. So some background on Opengrid. So in 2012, the City of Chicago's Department of Innovation and Technology, known as Do It for Chicago, they developed WindyGrid, and that is an enterprise geographic information system. And the purpose of WindyGrid was so that we, as city departments, could communicate and give spatial data sets so that everyone can see what's going on in the various departments. So it was designed for city personnel as a unified view of city operations, giving them access to spatial data sets such as 911, 311 service call, transit, mobile asset locations, building information, geospatially enabled public tweets and other critical information so that we can do some of what Steve was talking about, monitor what are the things that the community is saying in terms of certain neighborhoods. So when we would have a weather emergency, many times we're not aware as to what's going on until the public starts tweeting about it. And so by doing that, monitoring, taking all of that data and monitoring the public tweets, we could overlay heat maps from the department's level. And then when they would get together, if we were in the middle of an emergency, weather emergencies, or if we had a huge event, as you know, we host Lollapalooza, one of the largest festivals We use Grid internally to be able to do that communication amongst our departments. And we found it very, very critical and very, very helpful so that we could have eyes as to what's going on in our cities and where we need to be deploying resources. So Grid was such a success. We said, well, why not take that same concept and make it available to the community, to the public, so that they also can see what's going on in various neighborhoods, or they can ask those questions. I live in this area, I'm interested in moving to this community, I'm interested in the crime data, or I'm interested in, I want to open a restaurant, and I want to know if I will be the only restaurant within the next block that has my specialty. So, the city decided to, why don't we work on an open source solution based on what we've done for Grid and open it up to the public. And so, through working with Do It and the Smart Chicago Collaborative, which is a civic organization that is funded by the MacArthur Foundation, and what it does is it puts funding to opening up government to the community by innovation and technology. And so there was funding available, and they got together and they worked on launching Opengrid. And we're excited about Opengrid because the Department of Innovation and Technology applied for participated in a contest with the Amazon Web Services. It was called City on a Cloud Innovation Challenge. And they launched Opengrid, and they presented that, and we won. We earned the Dream Big Award, $50,000, and they earned that in AWS promotional credits. So Chicago is very proud of the work that we've done with Opengrid. So, using Opengrid, who uses it? That's residents, as I mentioned, businesses, community organizations, developers, etc. Anyone can use it. It's that simple. It's very user-friendly, and so we're proud that anyone can use Opengrid. What is it? It's free. It's a free GIS application for which data can be tailored to specific locations and needs, i.e. which city services are being delivered on their block, nearby street closures, business licenses, and I say street closures because we've just experienced, and everyone knows in Chicago, we have, and we joked about this yesterday, we have 2 seasons in Chicago, winter and construction. We're always shutting down streets for not just for events, and we're always having events. And so many people are calling us, I want to know, I want to go, to the Mag Mile, are there any streets closed, and we can have that information. Well, now, they don't have to call 311. They can actually go into Opengrid and pull that data set in of the street closures, and it will give them that information. It is through transportation permits of street closures. And so that's good information. We're not saying don't call us, trust me. But if we can give residents the opportunity to self-serve, we say go for it, because we have a lot of callers. As I mentioned in Chicago, we have 3.4 million calls last year. And so it's a lot of calls. So if we can get residents to self-serve, it's very important. And then not only that, business licenses, restaurant violations, city activities, and we'll go through, as I do the tutorial, some examples of how we pull this data in and how it can show up on a map so that people can actually get a visual view of what's happening in their various communities, and much more. How do you use it? As Steve mentioned in his presentation, it's very important that when you launch something that it can go on any type of device. As I just given you the address to get it. If you have a smartphone, you can click it right now and you can go into it, and it is fitting for that particular device. So it runs on desktops, tablets, mobile devices, and it can be accessed through any web browser. So now what I'll do is, rather than me going through a tutorial, I figured I would take advantage of my chief data officer who could not be here. Well, I said, well, is it okay? He said, sure. So he's done such a great and fabulous job of using the program, so you're gonna see how he walked through it. So let's look at the tutorial. And our chief data officer is a person by the name of Tom Shank, Jr. So listen to Tom.
My name is Tom Shank, Chief Data Officer for the City of Chicago. Now I'm going to show you Opengrid, a free website that uses open data to explore Chicago and your neighborhood. In the next few minutes, we're going to show you how to perform some of the basic functionality so you can search Chicago. To get to Opengrid, use your browser on a desktop or mobile device and visit chicago.opengrid.io. First, let's take a look at the quick search functionality, where you can quickly find information. Visit the quick search box, where you can search for places and data. For instance, type Wrigley Building to zoom
You're on
into
your
that
way there
building
today.
and surrounding area. You can also type an address. For best results, use the full address including zip code, such as 50 West Washington Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60602, which is the location of the Daily Center Plaza. You can also use it to find some basic data. For instance, to find all business licenses in the 60602 zip code, type business_licenses 60602. You can use the tooltip to see the type of queries you can perform in this quick search box. To look at the names of other data sets you can search, take a look at the data sets listed under the Advanced Search button. Opengrid does its best when you use the Advanced Search. To start, let's clear the map data by clicking on Clear Data. Press the Advanced Search button to bring up a new pane. First, we can get started by looking at the common queries, which are some basic queries to get you started. For instance, we can look at all of the street closures in Chicago. Click on the Common Queries menu and select Street Closures. We can look at that data and what this query provides us by clicking on Data Sets and Standard Filters. We see that it gives us Transportation Department permits with a work type of ST closure. To actually see this data, click on the Submit button. Open Data will retrieve the data and display it on the map. Currently, Opengrid will display 1,000 results of the map at any given time. Once the points are displayed on the map, we can click on the point to see more details about each street closure. You can navigate the map as you would any other mapping website. You can press on the Home button to recenter the map to the middle of the city. While you can click on the points of the map, you can also use the grid to look at more details. Click on the gray bar at the bottom of the screen. Here, you'll see some details for each result. Suppose you want to look at the street closures filed by NBC, perhaps getting the hope to look at the next Chicago PD episode. Simply type NBC to look at all the results, including that word. You can click on a row to see more information that's displayed on the map. From here, you can also explore the heat map of where these closures are across the city. Click on the heat map icon and we'll create a thermal heat map. We get to see the heat map results and the corresponding points. We can remove the points by clicking on the layers icon and unselecting Transportation Department permits data to just leave the heat map. We can also remove the heat map using the same method. And now we'll add both of those back. But suppose we want to look at a lot of data at once. Suppose we want to avoid restaurants that have failed an inspection and has a lot of sanitation complaints around them. For instance, we would want to look at food inspections, complaints about rodents, and 311 calls for sanitation complaints, that is, garbage complaints. Let's start again by clicking Clear Data. Now, using the Advanced Search pane, we add data sets under the Data Sets and Standard Filters menu. Selecting food inspections, selecting 311 calls for sanitation complaints, and selecting 311 rodent complaints. For food inspections, we can add additional filters to only look for failed food inspections. First, let's only look for restaurants. To do that, click on Facility Type and type restaurants. Then we can look for failed food inspections. So we add another search criteria for failed results. We want to use different colors for each result. We use violet for food inspections and orange for rodent complaints. Click Submit to see the results on the map. Like before, we can either explore the data on the map or look at the grid. This time, the grid will show multiple tabs for each data set. If you want to export any of this data, click on the Export button, which will allow you to export in CSV, Excel, or PDF. While the citywide results are interesting, let's take a look downtown where most restaurants are located. Click on the additional geospatial filters in the advanced search pane to look for some more options. If we want to look at restaurants within 60602, click on zip code, which lets you choose zip codes from within Chicago. Then click on Submit to update the query. But suppose you want to look at your own defined area. Opengrid allows you to draw on the map to choose a custom location. Let's return back to the advanced search pane, where in the same menu we can select Draw and Extent. Then use the tool on the left-hand side to select the drawing tools. And then we can draw on the area to look at the data. We have a couple of different options when using the Draw and Extent. We've used the rectangle tool, and we've also used the custom polygon tool, so we can draw more complex shapes. You can draw as many polygons on the map as you wish. You may have also noticed that we've drawn two distinct regions. As soon as we submit the query, data is only going to appear in the regions that we've drawn. And if you're on a mobile device, you can use your finger to complete these same operations. And finally, we can search around your device or around a marker that you place on the map. Returning to the advanced search pane, we can search around the marker and then choose the radius that we want to search around. In this case, we'll search 1 mile around the marker. On the left-hand side, we can then pick up a marker and place it on the map, and in this case, in the River North neighborhood. We return to the advanced search pane, and we click on the Submit button, which is going to resubmit the query, but now only looking within a mile radius of the marker we just placed on the map. These steps will help you use Opengrid to answer your questions about your neighborhood and Chicago. I hope you found this tutorial to be useful. If you have any questions, please visit opengrid.io to find ways of contacting us. Thank you.
So I hope you were able to get a very good visual of how Opengrid works. And so it's not that difficult to be able to get that information, and that's what we wanted to do. Obviously, there's some things that you have to be somewhat, keen as to what to put in. And one of the benefits that we're doing, as it mentioned in our opening video, we have developers that's working on this all the time, providing feedback as to how we can make it more user-friendly or you have better usability for the community. So we didn't just build something and say, okay, that's it. There are some kinks in it, some things that we're changing, especially when they ask for the complete address with the zip code. Somebody may not know that. But one of the good things about putting the markers in, just in case you don't know where you are, you can drag it. This is where I'm standing. And so I want to, I'm going to walk 3 blocks from here. This is my marker, and I want this information. You can get that information. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we're listening into how we can improve it for everyone that uses it. And so the benefits of Opengrid we see, as I mentioned when I first began, it supports transparency and it connects the public to their government, to our institutions and each other. So, if you are sitting on the block And some people may not do this, but if this is what you interested in, and I want to know all of the pothole complaints in my neighbor, on the block behind me, the block before me, whatever. You can get that information and you can communicate and you can see when it was created. So you don't know if your neighbor called about it. A lot of times we say, well, I didn't call about that pothole. Well, my neighbor always called. Well, you can look on that map to determine if that pothole request is already in the system. So either you decide to call again or I don't have to because my neighbor called. So you can get that information. So basically it provides situational awareness at the block level and communities at large. It also has the flexibility to add in new data sets from not only our city, but other open source platforms using Planario. And we talked about that on yesterday. That was the partnership with the Smart Chicago Collaborative, because they work with Planario, and their job was to help bring those two open source platforms together. So it's not just Chicago data. So if we wanted to do a comparison with some other data sets that's out there in the open source world, we could bring that data in for an analysis through Planario and overlay that layer into Chicago. And so that's why we're excited about it, because it's not just our data. We can bring and download data sets from around the world if we needed to for situational awareness, or to be able to look at data, not just in Chicago. So we love that flexibility with this platform. And I'm excited because of who we are. We're 311, most of us are 311 directors, managers, etc. Did you see how much data relies on the data that we're doing? The potholes, the graffiti, all of that. All of the calls that we take or that's on the web, that data is they're using this data, which makes us relevant. The work that we do is so important because people need to know what's going on in the city, what complaints are there. In order to find out about those food inspections, there was a combination where many times the calls came to us to report food poisoning or report, that the temperatures weren't right, or to go out there. And as a result, the inspectors went out. They failed. Some of those were automatically, they set up to go out for inspection, but many of those were as a result of the calls that we were taking, rodent baiting, all of that. And so that's where I say it uses our 311. I'm, personal, I want to take ownership. It uses our 311 data as a critical data set for information, to do research, as well as to do real-time analysis. One of the things we also did in Chicago that our analytics team did, and we won the Bloomberg Award a couple of years ago, is that what we would do is we would take our complaints, 311 data, rodent baiting, or what we would do is if there was a water main break, we would already forecast. We'd look at water main breaks, we'd look at the rodent control complaints, and the teams would go out in advance if they knew that water was going to be doing some work, because usually what happens when the water main breaks, unfortunately, rodents come. And so what we were doing is using our complaints to forecast and send teams out in advance without waiting on residents to call to say, we've seen rodents. And so taking all of this data and being able to do analysis is so critical, because as a result of us doing that work, we were able to more efficiently, our crews were able to be more efficient, and they were able to save their time about 10 to 15%. And that's key for street operations, to be able to go out and not wait on, they can already predefine where they would go. And so we use open data to do the same kind of things. WindyGrid still exists as well. So we've even expanded that even more so from an internal perspective. But the purposes of today is to talk about that we've also, expanded that for the public for Opengrid. And last but not least, it is adaptable to other cities. And so you would say, hey, that sounds good for Chicago, but how does that apply to me? I'm not an IT expert, not by a long, I'm a call center manager. I do that. However, I see the advantage of how this is helping. So when we go out into the neighborhood and we're talking about how are we connected, I don't get the information. We're putting this out so that residents can, if that's how you choose to get information, you have that. And so it is adaptable to your city, as I mentioned, because of Plenario and because it is an open source platform, it is not just for Chicago. And so if you're interested in taking on or more research, our Chief Data Officer, Tom Shank, is so, he's so open, and he says anyone that wants to call, get further information, you can contact him, and I'm gonna give you his email address. It is Tom, T-O-M, .Shank, and that's S-C-H-E-N-K @cityofchicago.org. Also, you could go to Opengrid.io, and there's contact information as well, that if you want to know how to reach them. But Tom is saying there could be a direct connect. Just get him the information and he'd work with you individually or your IT specialist and would be happy to see, happy to help you if you're interested in adapting this to your city. So I'm gonna open it up for questions with regard to this platform.
Well, maybe you can hear me. I have a question on data privacy practices and Opengrid. How do you handle situations where a constituent has made an anonymous complaint against their neighbor for a housing violation complaint, and they're not supposed to know who the complainant was?
So that information as to the participant and the complainant is not in there. It's just strictly about the location, because we understand that we do not want to start a war. So we don't pull the participant information. It is strictly about the address. And certain, as you'll see, obviously businesses don't want the information out there that they fail their inspections, but, oh well. But no, we do not include participant information. It's not pulling from those fields. For those reasons exactly.
It's like in the movies.
Do you have information on how many people use this like in a year and what are their most common searches, or is that a question for you?
I don't have that information. That would be good information for me to get from IT to see, how many people have, how many hits, et cetera, to do that. I'm sure they have some data as to the usage. It is new. We just launched it in January. So it is not even, it's our baby. So probably over the next year, we will be able to provide that information as to how many people are using it. One of the things that we're doing is we're also showcasing it with our automatic offices so that they know, because they can go in as well and begin to do situational awareness for their own wards. Because as I've mentioned in a couple of our meetings, we have one of the largest city council in the nation. We have 50 councilmen. And so we're always asked to provide reports as to how they're doing in their various neighborhoods. So automatically, without them waiting, every month, my staff is sending out reports to 50 aldermen showing them what kind of activity for service calls they've received in their various community areas. But there's some other things that they want to do down at the block level, the precinct level. So we're showcasing this, so we tell them you can do it on your own. You don't need us to run it for you. And there are some more behind the scenes that they may want. But if you're just going out to a community area and you want to show this is the activity in our ward, show it on a map, they can use Opengrid. So yes, we will be getting those statistics, I'm sure, probably over the next 6 months to a year to determine how many people are using it.
Excellent job, excellent presentation, thank you. Sure. I was having a difficult time trying to see the advanced searches and the different things. Are you able to do a date range or see what's active for street closures?
Yes, yes, you can do it by dates as well. You can, yep.
You mentioned that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We'll do here, this gentleman, and I'll come right over.
And then you have a hand in the back as well.
Are there plans at any point to have reporting into Opengrid directly I know there's a lot of other avenues, but if someone's looking at something and then say, oh, well, there's a pothole right there, is that in the works?
Well, what you can do is, Tom didn't walk you through it, but on that map where you at the bottom, you can actually export data out into an Excel, a PDF, or a common delimited file, so you can port it out and then run a report that way. You can do that as well. So that feature is already in there. Is that the kind of report you're talking about? Or are you talking about something a little bit more?
Well, if I wanted to report something brand new that you don't know about yet.
Oh, yes, there is a plan, yes, to be able to connect it to our city service CRM platform, so that if you don't know, I'm in there and I just walked and I was just at that restaurant and I got food poisoning. I don't want to have to go back out. I should be able to do it on that platform. So yes, that's in the work to connect that. And it very soon we talked about that. So yes, thanks.
I have a real short, sweet one. You mentioned that Windy City is an internal.
Yes, Windy Grid.
Windy Grid, and
Mhm.
then the Open Grid is strictly extra. Well, you're using it both ways then.
Yes.
Okay, that was it.
Windy Grid, actually, you have to sign in and have credentials, because there's some other sensitive information in Windy Grid. As you asked the question about participant, that information can be pulled into Windy Grid, because that's the department view. So yes, we see that. So the Open Grid, we were very sensitive as to what we will push out to the neighborhood. Everything, generally everything is out there, but except those kinds of, sensitive information about who's complaining, if there's anything that would be HIPAA related, it's not in there. So, but yes, Windy Grid, you have to sign in and have credentials to be able, yes.
How are your departments collaborating for the information to get it into the Open Grid? Do you have like a department that's putting that information in there, like road closures and everything?
Yes, transportation, or they're actually, it's grabbing that data. So when transportation approves a permit for a particular street, it is actually going into our data portal, and the data portal is pulling that information out and putting it in Open Grid. So no, they don't have to do a separate putting it into that. No, when they approve it, that information is scrapped as part of that into our data portal, and IT sets it up every couple of minutes. It's pulling that data and it's making it available. So no, you don't have to put it anywhere.
And I just have one more.
Sure.
How are you marketing it to the public, to the citizens?
One of the things, as I mentioned, we're talking to the 50 aldermen who community areas. Smart Chicago Collaborative is, as I mentioned, it's a civic organization, and it has a lot of relationships with the various non-for-profit organizations. The tech community, they've done hackathons on this, different events, so the IT community is aware of it. And so as they're going out to various neighborhoods, we're highlighting this platform. And so again, it's only 5 months old. And so probably over the next year, we'll be able to see definitely more usage. So it's a combination. Everyone's talking about it. My staff, I've updated them that it exists. So if someone asks about it, how to get to it, they'll be able to provide that information. So, there is, I wouldn't say there's a marketing plan in place, but we're doing as much as we can to get the word out for the community to be able to utilize it.
We have one here, and then we'll be able to take one more after.
So it sounds like it was a collaborative effort with GIS. It sounds like GIS was pretty heavily involved in working with Open Grid and with you guys to get this going. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll probably have time for another one after. Anyone? I guess one more.
Congratulations. Also, my background is in customer experience research and design, and 4 or 5 years ago, I went to an interaction design conference, and your then CIO was talking about this, like the early, and this is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You said Tom is the person to just kind
Yes.
of connect and get more into.
Tom Shank, he is our Chief Data Officer.
Yeah.
Did you get his email?
I did write it down. Yeah, I just want to make sure that's the right person. And that's he's also helping to bring it to other cities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say, again, great presentation. I've been following the open data space for 5 or 6 years, and this is truly cutting edge stuff that your team and Tom's team is doing. I just want to mention, this is more of a comment, that this is a great opportunity for all of you to connect with the civic tech folks in your communities. You all
That's
have
right.
these folks, whether maybe you're already working with them, but this is a great opportunity. This is something that would be of great interest to them. Taking your 301 data, opening it up, putting it on open data platform, and then being able to use it with Plenario and Opengrid. So congratulations on the great work that you guys have done, Tom's team. But also, as you mentioned, Smart Chicago Collaborative has played a key role here too.
Yes.
It's the whole ecosystem working together to bring these products to market, so to speak. But also, it's been great that you've opened it up for all of us to use. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.